Many of us start the healing journey. However, real transformation takes a layered approach. And in today's video, I am going to be explaining the 3 stages of deep inner work and how you can move through each stage of this deep inner work. The reason why regular therapy doesn't work for many is because they remain stuck at the stage where there is an acquired knowledge. Now, this is the stage where they begin to gain awareness around their experiences, understanding of their trauma. It's what I call theory for the conscious mind, which is stage 1. Now, this is not a process that can be fast-tracked by going to therapy just a few times or something that you can learn in a span of 2 to 3 months, because the knowledge is unlimited to what you can discover truly about yourself. I have spoken to some people who tend to have a limited perception that they had gone to therapy for a few times and they assume that they understand some issues and that they are done. So some of the common responses that I get is that, yes, I've gone to therapy, I've done the inner work, I get it, it's all done, it's all good, it's all sorted. Some people are aware that these learnings are an ongoing process, while others would assume that they have gained some basic knowledge and acknowledge for having done the inner work, which isn't truly doing the inner work. Now, this isn't to blame anyone, but to rather acknowledge that real healing can only happen when an individual decides for themselves that they want to heal and they want more for themselves. We can also look at it this way, where this is also a phase where some people will get curious through the information that is shared around them and grow invested to want to learn more, while the others would remain ignorant for their own reasons. But we can also look at it from a different perspective. Maybe that particular individual needed that level of awareness at that time because they aren't fully ready to open up themselves to receive this knowledge. And this usually happens for different reasons. However, if we were to look at it on a spiritual context, this would often seem like there is still some more time left for this particular individual to continue on the current path for some reason, and eventually something will happen in their reality that would shatter their belief system and alter their reality, that would push them onto a different path where they would begin to seek for answers, and this it would eventually lead them to the path of the spiritual awakening process. And when they step into this process of seeking for answers, now this is when they will be open to receiving this knowledge, because they are now looking for answers and they are ready to receive this knowledge that will show up to them in different ways. Another common problem at this stage is that a lot of people don't actually know some of their deepest trauma on a conscious level. This is simply because when we have experienced some painful memories, we do everything in our capacity to forget these events and never wanting to remember those events again, which is why often talk therapy can feel or come across as superficial for one of 2 reasons. Now, one is because they would probably find it uncomfortable to talk or to open up with a therapist on some of their deepest painful memories and wounds, because a therapist is still a stranger to them, or in some cases it's because they just don't feel connected or in sync with their therapist. So conversations doesn't go deeper. And the second reason one could argue is because they genuinely do not have any memories of this repressed events, therefore not even acknowledging that painful experiences because they don't seem to remember on a conscious level. So here's the thing, the repressed memories or the ones that they struggle to talk about are the traumas that is trapped inside their bodies that needs to be addressed, and the only way they can access it is by tapping into their subconscious state. Without a doubt, healing can happen by just talking, listening, and relating to someone with similar experiences or someone that just gets it. However, this is just the outer layer that would help you to heal your mind. And this is actually a good way to get started because a good therapist will often be able to identify certain patterns and help you be accountable for your own behaviors and for your own actions. And this will also help you to bring awareness to your conscious mind, and slowly you would no longer feel alone or isolated with your emotions or your experiences. You would begin to feel validated, and when that happens, it will start to make a difference to how you perceive yourself, and this will help you to start removing self-doubt, something that a lot of people struggle with. The next phase is emotional release. And now this is what happens. A lot of people would go for talk therapy or regular therapy and eventually quit after a few sessions because they find it's not doing much for them. And some would continue for years, however, they would remain stuck at this stage because deep healing requires working towards healing our core wounds, and that can only be done through emotional release. What we do not know on a conscious level can only be accessed through our subconscious state, which will reveal memories of pain and trauma. And this can be felt in our physical body when we tap into this exercise. Now, once you reach this level of awareness, your body will begin to process all the repressed memories, trauma, and pain that has been trapped in your bodies from many years. And all these memories will begin to come to the surface. It will start bubbling up to the surface for you to relive these memories again so that you can process your pain and release it. However, this time around, you are dealing with it from a place of awareness. Now, I must be upfront with you though that this process is very uncomfortable and can be destabilizing for many, which is why it is important to be guided so that you will not feel out of control or spiral out of control during this process, because this process can actually cause a lot of physical symptoms like nausea, indigestion, anxiety, headache, exhaustion, fatigue. So these are some of the common symptoms, and therefore it is really important to have guidance so that you would be able to handle it when it gets challenging. This is actually a really important phase, and when it's done right, it can help you to achieve sustainable, long-term, or even permanent healing. And this can help you heal your deep core wounds, and as a result, this can also help you to heal your chronic anxiety or just anxiety in general. Unfortunately, without guidance or awareness, many people can easily fall back into old patterns when they reach this stage, and this is where they would reach out for distractions to self-soothe, and this will only keep them stuck in this loop for as long as it takes, because they have to finally make that decision to push through the pain and go through this emotional release. Now, there is simply no any other way around this except to push through the discomfort and allow the emotional release to happen through the conscious mind and the physical body. And the third stage is the integration and reinvent stage. And the most important phase of your healing is often challenged during the integration phase. Now, let's look at it this way. When you go to college for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you have to go through many classroom lessons. So you take on lessons, and then eventually you have to move to the next stage where you will have to test your knowledge, everything that you have learned in classroom through exams. And exams are often uncomfortable because you do not know what to expect. You go through preparation, and during this phase, people go through various emotions. Now, this is the second phase. So the first phase is the lessons that you learn in classroom, which is the theory of the conscious mind. And then your exam is the second phase, which is the emotional release, where you go through all this phase of healing your deep wounds. And then once you have done that, you move to the third stage, which is the practical stage, where you have to do the practical work. Now, in a typical college setting, we call it internship before you can finally graduate. So we can look at this as the internship that you will have to go through before you can finally graduate. So what does the integration phase look like? Most people are not going to like to hear this, but the reality is the integration phase will often present you with similar events or circumstances that would appear to be a repeating cycle in your life, that would often come in the form of relationships, work environment, career, or financial setbacks, you name it. So if you have struggled with your relationships in the past, you will be presented with a potential romantic connection that is going to trigger all your insecurities and all your wounds. And this is where you will be challenged to see how much work you have done to heal yourself and how you will choose to handle or respond differently. Or are you going to fall back into your old patterns? So if you have always attracted toxic relationships in your past, you will most likely attract a toxic person once again, and this person will replay some of the toxic patterns that you have lived through in your past relationships, giving you an opportunity to recognize and break the pattern. So instead of putting up with their bad behaviors, you now learn to set and hold boundaries. If they engage in a push and pull dynamic, you recognize that you have been part of this dynamic before in the past, and here you are to make a firm decision to walk away without engaging in manipulation or hostility. Or let's say maybe you have always overextended to yourself to others, even when you are struggling yourself. Now you will be most likely presented with another similar circumstances that will challenge you to make a different decision, therefore offering you an opportunity to break that pattern. And until and unless you choose to respond differently to these events, you will find yourself being trapped in the similar loop of repeating patterns. So until you learn to break these patterns, these events will be presented in your life in cycles. So if you've always asked this question, why is it me? Why this keeps happening to me? Why is this repeating again and again? This is your answer. By making the conscious effort to recognize that you are done and these dynamics are no longer serving you or not adding any value to your life, and choosing to want better for yourself without engaging in any manipulation, blame, or hostility, this is where you graduate, and this is where your inner work comes in full circle.